When the storms of World War II spread across Asia, they reached even the rice fields of Indochina. By 1940, France had fallen to Nazi Germany, and its empire was suddenly without a master. In that moment of confusion, Japan stepped forward to claim its place. The Japanese called their empire the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, a promise of liberation from Western colonialism. But for the people of Vietnam, it would bring only another kind of bondage. At first, Japanese troops entered Indochina under a polite fiction. The French colonial administration would remain in charge, maintaining order in the name of Vichy France. In truth, every decision of consequence flowed from Tokyo. French officials continued to wear their uniforms, to sit at their desks, to issue decrees stamped with familiar seals. But the illusion was thin. Japanese soldiers patrolled the streets, Japanese requisition officers took what they pleased. The colony became a puppet held by two strings, one painted blue, white, and red, the other red and white with a rising sun. For the Vietnamese, it was a time of contradictions. Two foreign flags flew overhead, neither spoke for the people who lived below them. Japan's primary need was rice, food for its army and its homeland. At gunpoint, farmers were ordered to deliver their harvests to government depots. French administrators, eager to preserve their own privileges, enforced these orders with ruthless efficiency. In the northern provinces, the situation turned catastrophic. Floods destroyed fields, transportation broke down as rails and barges were commandeered for military use. The colonial system, designed for export rather than survival, offered no cushion. When famine came in 1944, it struck with biblical cruelty. Villages emptied. Families sold their homes, their tools, their clothing, anything that could buy a handful of grain. Those who could walk drifted south along the roads like ghosts. Those who could not were buried in the fields where they fell. In some districts, people stripped bark from trees, boiled leaves, and ground grass into paste. Rice that once filled warehouses for export now rotted behind guarded doors. Between late 1944 and mid-1945, historians estimate that 2 million Vietnamese, perhaps more, died of hunger. The number is so vast it defies imagination. In some villages, entire family lines disappeared. The French blamed the Japanese blamed the weather. For the peasants who starved, blame was meaningless. They saw only that both occupiers had taken their food and offered nothing in return. The famine broke something in the colonial psyche. The idea that foreign rulers brought order and progress could not survive the sight of mothers burying their children in the same soil they had tilled for empire. While the countryside starved, new movements stirred in the mountains. The Viet Minh, under H. Chi Minh's direction, seized the moment. They distributed what little rice they could seize from Japanese stores and local landlords. To the desperate, they seemed the only force that cared whether they lived or died. The Viet Minh's methods were simple but effective. Every sack of grain they shared was stamped with their message of independence. Every village meeting was both relief effort and recruitment drive. Hunger, which had once sustained obedience, now fed rebellion. By 1945, their network reached deep into the countryside. Cadres established committees to manage food distribution, repair irrigation, and maintain security. The Viet Minh were not merely guerrillas, they were becoming a government in waiting. Across Indochina, other nationalist factions existed, some backed by China, others by Japan itself, but none matched the Viet Minh's discipline or reach. They drew strength not from ideology alone, but from credibility earned in crisis. Every revolution is, at its heart, an answer to suffering. And in that terrible famine, the answer bore a red flag. Japan's position in Indochina grew increasingly desperate as the war turned against it. Allied forces were advancing across the Pacific, supply lines frayed. The Japanese High Command began to suspect that France's colonial officials, nominal allies, might betray them if given the chance. On the 9th of March, 1945, they acted. In a swift and brutal coup, Japanese troops surrounded French garrisons across the colony. Officers were seized in their quarters, some executed on the spot. Within 48 hours, the entire French military presence in Indochina ceased to exist. The colonial governor, Admiral de Coup, was placed under arrest. Japanese propaganda declared the birth of an independent Vietnam, under Emperor Bo Dai, a monarch resurrected as figurehead. It was independence in name only. Japanese officers now ruled directly through local intermediaries, dictating policy from Hanoi. To the Vietnamese, it was yet another mask of empire. But masks can slip. By mid-1945, Japan's own defeat was inevitable. American bombers darkened its skies, its navy lay shattered, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were only weeks away. As the empire crumbled, its soldiers in Indochina turned inward, hoarding supplies, guarding depots, and defending their positions against imaginary invasions. Order dissolved into chaos. In that confusion, the Viet Minh moved. They struck railways, seized towns, and captured armories abandoned by retreating forces. They proclaimed local governments in liberated zones, raised red and gold flags, and distributed food from seized warehouses. In that moment, centuries of subjugation seemed to end. The crowd wept, cheered, and believed. Yet as H's voice carried over the square, far beyond it, new forces were already moving, Allied armies landing to disarm the Japanese, Chinese troops entering from the north, British and French returning to the south. The revolution's dawn would be brief. Still, for one radiant morning, the Vietnamese believed themselves free. And in their hearts, that belief became fact, something no empire would ever again erase. The long night of occupation was over, but the long war for independence was only beginning. Next, the French return, bearing flags, vengeance, and a conviction that history could be undone. The First Indochina War begins.